My name is Amilcar Mendez. I'm married. I have 3 kids, 14, 10, and 9. I was in construction, and I'm the one who does the lane closures on the highway. That Saturday was my day off, and one of the co-workers, he wanted me to cover that day for him because I was taking some devices, traffic devices from my pickup truck. The traffic slowed down. It looks like the guy didn't pay attention. So I opened the tailgate and boom! Before I remember, it was a lot of noise. Oh, boom, boom. I remember I was this way, holding the tailgate under the truck, and the driver, he went to where I was, and he held my hand, and he started crying. He said, I'm sorry, and he started crying. The only thing that come to my mind is my family.
Cecil County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Units are out to Rescue Box 695. 77 Delta 4, known age male construction worker, struck by an auto, unknown injuries.
I was losing a lot of blood, you know. I didn't feel my legs. In that moment, I didn't feel it. And also, I feel half of my body warm.
Within 3 minutes of the initial 911 call, 2 Maryland State Troopers arrived on scene and applied tourniquets to the lower extremities of Mr. Mendez, and those really saved his life.
At that point, I knew that really the only place with definitive care would have been shock trauma. So at that point, we medevaced him off 95 and delivered him to University of Maryland Shock Trauma.
He was pinned. That's a huge amount of energy that got transmitted across his lower abdomen, his pelvis, and his lower extremities.
He arrived actually not screaming and writhing in pain as you would suspect somebody that has 2 mangled legs.
He had essentially amputations in the field.
We could see bone and tissue that was disturbed.
Oof. Mr. Mendez was one of the sickest people and most injured people I've ever seen when he got to shock trauma.
He lost a huge amount of blood from his legs. So the combination of his abdominal hemorrhage, pelvic hemorrhage, and extremity hemorrhage, he had essentially bled to death when he got here.
We called our orthopedic surgeons. They came in and cleaned up what they could on both legs and splitted him to prepare him for the operating room.
He had injuries to his colon and his iliac vein, in addition to a tremendous amount of destruction of his retroperitoneum.
He had a series of injuries. I've only seen twice the tube that brought urine from his kidney down to his bladder had been stripped of its blood supply, just torn. Really impressive in a bad way.
When he went to the operating room, multiple physicians looked at his legs and considered whether there was anything we could do to save them.
During COVID, it was such a hard thing for us to see our patients going through such dire things and not be allowed to have visitors, and so they would be going through a lot of this by themselves.
For somebody who, went to work that day and didn't expect any of this to happen, as none of us do, that changes the course of your life within a second, which is why we do what we do here.
He had had bilateral amputees, and then he continued to have vascular issues in regards to that. He needed continuous dialysis. His blood pressure couldn't support intermittent dialysis.
We had to create a new abdominal wall for him. That turned out to be a little bit of a complicated issue. We did it with some absorbable mesh. Worked well.
He was a complicated case. As soon as you thought he was over a hump, I feel like he would reach another barrier.
I remember when I opened my eyes. I can't lie to you, it's not an easy situation. But when time goes on and, past a couple of days, everything changed. I start thinking about my family, and I start thinking that there is a reason why God gave me a second chance.
The ICU does a wonderful job of getting them over the hump and getting them then to the next stage, where they can be downgraded to a floor bed and then start the process of rehab and starting to slowly recover.
When he did come to us, by then he had had amputations of both his lower limbs. He had multiple large open wounds. He had tubes, the nephrostomy tube. He had the colostomy. He had a wound vac. So he was pretty complicated when he did come to us in April.
We went to the gym. We started doing some exercise, and they are so nice to me. I can't explain, It was, they gave me, they changed my mentality.
Even though he was afraid about what was going to happen, what the future would look like, how his family would view him with both amputations, he always had such a positive attitude, and I think that was half the battle right there.
But I'm happy. I'm happy to be here. I learned something. All the bad things, I fight with the good things. If something comes to my mind, but hey, I don't have the colostomy. I know I don't have no legs, but I have the processes. I can walk. It's things like that.
Now, Mr. Mendez is a remarkable victory.
Every agency involved really came together to save Mr. Mendez's life.
But without that teamwork, without everyone working together, this would not have been possible.
It's a tribute to the people who came before us, why it worked so well. A lot of us are standing on the shoulders of giants.
I have no idea of how many individual people touched this guy, but if you told me it was 1,000, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's 100 12-hour shifts, 10 people a shift, by all of the various people who helped provide care for him. It's a lot of people.
Thank you. I can say, there is no word to say thank you for all the job they did. I feel comfortable. I feel great. That's the perfect word, yes.